Hello, welcome. My name is Aletta Bonn. I'm Professor of Ecosystem Services at the Helmholtz-Centre of Environmental Research, the University of Vienna, and within the framework of the German Center of Integrative Biodiversity Research, iDiv. I'm very happy to be here. This is fantastic to be in the Kesselhaus of the Kulturbrauerei, where 4 years ago we launched the first EXA conference together with Susanne and Katrin, and where we also developed the German citizen science strategy. So I'm really, really happy to be hosting, together with Susanne Hecker, the science policy discussion for this conference.
Yes, I already said hello, but I'm going to introduce me maybe in 2 more sentences. So my name is Susanne Hecker, and I am, since 1st of October this year, leading the German citizen science platform Bürger schaffen Wissen at the Museum für Naturkunde in Berlin. And I'm also one of the members of the board of directors of the European Citizen Science Association. We are very delighted to have 5 speakers on the panel, 3 here on site and 2 others who will join us remotely just in a second. So what can you expect from this session? We asked our panelists to provide some very short statements about their views on citizen science and the SDGs. And after those statements, we will go into a discussion amongst the panelists. You can participate as well by asking your questions in the hop-in tool in the video chat. So please, if you haven't done so here, all the participants on site, please log into hop-in, mute your speakers, and just put the questions into the chat. Aletta and I will both have an eye on the chat during the discussion, and will then bring your questions to the panel. So we will start by introducing our panelists to you. Aletta, you start.
Okay, I hope we can have them on the screen as well, so that we can see them. I can see you. Okay, that's great. So we have 5 excellent panelists. I'm really excited about this discussion. And we start with Signe Razzo, who gave us our greetings already from the European Commission. Signe is Deputy Director General of the Directorate Research and Innovation within the European Commission. Signe is responsible for citizen engagement and international cooperation across the Directorate General. So great to have you. And therefore, obviously, citizen science and SDGs are right in the middle of your responsibilities and of your interest. Signe also holds a university degree in international trade and economics and a degree in English philology, both from Tartu University in Estonia. Hello, Signe.
Thank you. So, Michael Meister, welcome once again in this panel session. Michael Meister holds a doctorate in mathematics and has been a member of the German Parliament, the Bundestag, since 1994. From 2002 to 2004, he was chairman of the finance working group of the CDU-CSU parliamentary group in the Bundestag. Until the end of 2013, he served as deputy chairman of the CDU-CSU parliamentary group, where his responsibilities included fiscal and budgetary policy. From 2013 to 2018, he was state secretary at the Federal Ministry of Finance. And since March 2018, Michael Meister has held the position of state secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. Welcome, and thanks for joining this discussion, Michael Meister.
Okay, and I'm very happy to welcome Katrin Voland. Katrin, you stand for citizen science, both nationally as internationally. You really push this development. You really build up EXA as vice chair. And also here in Germany, you developed together, we started the citizen science platform Bürger schaffen Wissen in 2014 and developed the citizen science strategy with the green paper. Now it's great to meet you here. Now I can greet you as Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Natural History Museum in Vienna, where you're going to lead this and where you're going to influence not only Austrian, but also obviously European citizen science. In Europe, you also were instrumental in building, obviously, EXA as vice chair, but also recruiting using the European project EU Citizen Science platform to share, initiate, and really develop best practice across Europe, and so that we can actually work together. And you also chair the cost action on citizen science, which enabled this European citizen science community to come together. So probably many people who are now at the moment online. So, and finally, to your achievements, there will also be a book coming out of the cost action. So, the Science of Citizen Science, an open access Springer book, which will be launched soon. Welcome. And I continue with another partner from the former Bürgerschaften Wissen Gewiss Consortium, Clement Tockner. Clement Tockner is president of the Austrian Science Fund, FWF, since May 2016, where he has been particularly committed to new funding schemes, such as the innovative 1,000 Ideas program or Connecting Minds, which really chimes here, obviously, also with citizen science, and which encourages researchers to involve actors from outside the scientific community. So you have been a driver of citizen engagement, and from next year onwards, you're taking up the baton of the Director General of the Senckenberg Gesellschaft für Naturforschung in Frankfurt-Main in Germany, and you will shape science in Germany again, so looking forward to this. You have, as I said already, you have been a key initiator of citizen science in Germany as well, because you were a member of the Bürgerschaften Wissen Gewiss Consortium, and personally, you have always encouraged us to go forward and to dare this, and so it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, it's great to be with you.
Last but not least, I'm very happy to introduce Muki Haklay, who is a professor of geographical information science, and he is the co-director of the Extreme Citizen Science Group at the Department of Geography at University College in London. Muki is also the co-vice chair of the European Citizen Science Association. His interest in public involvement in environmental decision-making goes back to the late 1990s with the development of research on public access, use and creation of environmental information. And amongst many other activities in the global citizen science community, Muki initiated and led the study on the characteristics of citizen science that he will present in the plenary talk which will follow this panel discussion. Welcome, Muki. Great to have you. Right, so we invited our panelists to prepare some very short statements, which we would like to ask you to give now. And I would like to give the floor to Signe to start with your statement. Signe, please.
Well, many thanks. Great to be part of this panel. Now, as we are discussing here, how citizen science can support sustainable development goals, I'd really like to start with stating that in order to rise to the challenge of the SDGs, we really have to involve society alongside academia, industry and public authorities to conduct research and to develop innovations of all kinds. And citizen science is actually a good way to do this. And it is consequently one of the main priorities of EU policy support. The European Commission, namely, has played a role in supporting the rise of citizen science in recent years. Many Horizon 2020 projects have been launched across all areas of research and innovation. New knowledge is being developed, also practices and capacities for the conduct of citizen science are being improved. And I'm really happy to see that many of these projects are also represented here today. Horizon Europe, our new program, really puts into practice these aspirations. The missions in particular are taking new steps towards co-designing agendas and visions with society, and then putting in place a range of modes of research and innovation, including public engagement, citizen science, and also user-led innovation. in order to help to achieve them. The missions are, in our eyes, pilots of what should be new normal across the thematic clusters and future programs. Just to give an example, since the beginning of the year and throughout the summer, despite the difficult circumstances, all mission boards have organized citizen engagement events in different member states, in different cities in Europe. And the input of these citizen engagement events have also been used to develop the reports that were handed over by the mission boards to the Commission during Research and Innovation Days here in Brussels at the end of September. And for instance, the Ocean Mission has even received its title as suggested by the mission board Starfish from the event with the youngsters. Now, coming back to citizen science, while it's important for new knowledge, new behaviors and new policies, we have to go beyond this and really embed citizen science more sustainably in research and innovation system. We need research organizations to create enabling environments for citizen science. And this should really include new incentives and rewards. A reformed citizen research assessment system that motivates researchers and institutions, namely to involve society. Updated training and also support measures for researchers, new institutional structures at the governance level, but also new funding opportunities. So by supporting citizen science practice and creating an enabling environment for it, the European Commission expects to see citizen involvement really to become an integral part of Horizon Europe, as well as the European research area in all member states. This is an area that is embracing all of Europe at all levels, EU, national, regional, local, and institutional.
All right. Thank you very much, Signe, for those very concise and very interesting thoughts that you've shared. Michael Meister, would you like to follow to Signe's words?
I would like. Thank you for the opportunity. Citizen science is a key to our knowledge society and offers a numerous of advantages to all relevant stakeholders. Researchers benefit on one side from the data they cannot collect themselves, and they provide, hopefully, valuable ideas regarding to the research projects. On the other side, the citizens can benefit from the possibility of gaining insight the scientific process and participating in scientific debate. Citizens can make important contribution to solving the global challenges. We need local data, I mentioned it before, for measuring global progress on our way to achieving the SDGs. Citizen science has, in our eyes, an enormous potential because citizens can collect data directly on the ground. And the aim is not to use the data from citizen science projects to close existing gaps, but to enable citizens to play a key role in monitoring the SDGs. This would introduce a completely new perspective in relevant negotiations. To achieve this, we need a dialogue involving the scientific community and civil society as equal partners. So we need a level playing field between both sides in our eyes. The project proposed under the Federal Research Ministry, second citizen science funding call will start in early 2021. For the first time, civil society representatives will serve as coordinators and leaders of research projects. We want to ensure that research activities and research policy involve civil society and consider its needs. We must keep working towards these goals, and we must pay attention to our own funding activities and constantly evaluate and adapt them. Citizen science is not yet recognized by all scientific disciplines. Its added value for research and society is not clearly recognized by everyone. However, conferences like here today shows that citizen science can contribute substantially to far-reaching political negotiation process. And in this sense, I hope that the conference will bring ahead the citizen science concept.
Thank you very much. We will have a look at how far we are in that process. Thank you very much. Katrin, would you like to continue with your statement?
Thank you very much. I think citizen science is not only growing, it's really coming to another level. Also, it's recognized now on the policy level. We are discussing here with the European Commission and the German government about citizen science. And we also realize that in daily lives, it's not only the museums with the long tradition on citizen science who are now actors, also universities and other players ask actively for public engagement. So I think it's really a new level. And also the citizen science community itself becomes so reflective. Now you already mentioned the cost action. Mm-hmm. And the cost action was extremely helpful. It's an instrument also of the European Commission, Cooperation in Science and Technology. And we had a cost action to explore all the ideas around citizen science. And it was so helpful to see what is really the contribution to the different disciplines, what is really the contribution to all the societal demands, and also to reflect on the tools like platforms and apps. And this book, which comes soon, has more than 100 authors throughout Europe. So that's really helpful to be so reflective. And what I also personally found extremely helpful was the link, especially to Eastern Europe, countries like Hungary, or also the Baltic states, which provided a lot of social scientists. They really enriched the process enormously. Yeah, I would like to mention 3 challenges I see at the moment. So the first challenge is, I think, citizen science, all the efforts are notoriously underestimated. You need more effort to run citizen science projects. You have to really invest, and perhaps also the European Commission can see this as an investment into the infrastructures, into tools, into new modes of education, about new modes of communication. So it's really an effort to support citizen science and social public engagement. Another challenge I see is that nature is not really valued. You have a lot of citizen science projects in the area of biodiversity monitoring, so it's rather typical that people are outside, but there's a tendency that in our economy, nature is not really valued. No, it's so easy to get money for the financial terms. Lufthansa got 9 billion euro, but citizens, I think, and that's a danger we have to look at, are filling gaps. So it's not paid to monitor biodiversity. It's can be cheap data of citizens, or at least it is a danger, and it's also discussed under the word of neoliberalism. We can be a bit careful with these buzzwords, but we have to be very careful that citizen science is not going to fill the gaps of policy. And I also would like to mention a third tension, that is the tension between citizen science has to be relevant and has to support policy goals on the one hand, which is very valuable as we see with the SDGs. But science has always a degree of freedom, of creativity, also perhaps of being a bit chaotic and have new ideas. So they are not always target oriented, and there's a slight tension. Thanks.
Thank you, Katrin. Thank you very much also for raising those challenges and tensions. And I think we can come back to this in the discussion. Clement, I would like to call on you right now for your short statement. Clement, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will continue with these challenges, because what we see is, and we all know that we have an ongoing decline and erosion of biodiversity and ecosystem services. It's even accelerating. At the same time, we have an immense, almost exponential increase in data and information over the last 30 years. So we have this kind of increase in data and information and this decline in biodiversity and the erosion of ecosystem services. So there's an increasing gap. And the question is, why does the information not lead to a kind of change in a way in stopping or biodiversity decline? And I see two key reasons. And this is related then to citizen science. The first one is that we are not able yet in the best way to translate information into knowledge and knowledge into solutions, solution options. So this is one kind of translation that is not happening in a way as it should be. And the second aspect is that the challenges or the reasons for this decline are so complex that we need a much broader and much more systemic approach to cope with these challenges as well. And this is, we have to cross borders. And the borders is not just disciplinary borders, but it's primarily also transdisciplinary research, which means to combine academic knowledge with societal knowledge. And this is where, in both cases, where citizens come in. The first one is citizen science, not just collaborators in research programs, but they should be much stronger involved in co-design and co-implementation. And the second is these challenges in transdisciplinary research. And I can talk later about this because we started with a funding program on transdisciplinary research. And we see these challenges both from a scientific aspect as well as from linking this with citizen and with the society.
Thank you very much, Clement, for those words and showing us into well, different directions for the discussion and also for the development. Muki, what have you got to say?
Thank you very much. So in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, we can think about citizen science in multiple ways. There's already work going on about seeing it as a tool for the data to allow us to monitor the progress towards them, which we have some very good papers that came out about it. But there is also, of course, the element of citizen science also seeing it as part of achieving the goals themselves. So while collecting data, also achieving the goals by doing that, by increasing education and so on. But as Johannes pointed out, and as we're all kind of realizing, we need to think about a societal transformation in order to achieve sustainable development. And we need to kind of think about, we are already talking about new forms of economic thinking. We need to think about new relationship between society and the environment. And we can't leave science in a business as usual within that. So when we are expecting transformation in economy and in the environment, we also need to talk about transformation in science. And within that, we can think about also the element of investing in citizen science that Catherine already raised. So society, as in the whole human society, came together to invest in high energy physics in the form of CERN. And they are investing we are investing as a society, €1 billion a year in progressing the science of physics. How about we'll think about 10% of this sum to progress citizen science every year? So with our investment and with that size of effort and an international institution that will force it and agree on it, we can achieve a lot.
Thank you very much, Muki. A very interesting idea that I would like to develop further.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for these inspiring statements, also for the challenges you set out. Muki, you just said, well, there should be a 10% investment of all the funding which goes into physics, could be to citizen science to really have transformational change. And where are we? Also, I'm really impressed. So Katrin set out that citizen science is notoriously underestimated. It sort of is the gap filling thing. How can it be mainstreamed? How can it be seen that this is a necessity? We actually rely on this. We do know. You said that a lot of biodiversity research is being carried out by citizen science. We do know that 70 to almost 90% of all species data are delivered by volunteers. And so we do know that it's a foundation in order to do good science. Now, my first question here to you all, and maybe first to Signe and Michael Meister, would be, is citizen science actually, has it reached mainstream science policy yet? And I read from a European Commission document, citizen science is a powerful tool for public engagement and empowerment in policy making and for raising awareness. I hope not only raising awareness, but also doing environmental science and policies. It is also seen as a new push for European democracy. This is a high goal, this is a high challenge. And it is also instrumental in order to deliver our ambitious strategies under the European Green Deal. Maybe I can ask first Signe and then pass on to Michael Meister.
Yes, many thanks for the question. And I think the challenges that we are still facing at different levels were already underlined by the speakers in this panel. But if we take the EU level, we can say really that it has reached the mainstream, namely because its potentials are recognized, and we've also put in place measures how to support it. The EU, as well as member state authorities, are already using citizen science activities and data in several policy areas, as it was already underlined. And clearly, when it comes to biodiversity, when it comes to the European Green Deal, it really has huge potential. Now, just to give a few examples. For instance, citizen science already contributes to monitoring the implementation of EU environmental legislation, as well as progress on international commitments, such as the SDGs. Biodiversity was mentioned. For example, authorities already depend on citizen science for observations of indicator species, such as butterflies and birds. And I can just give a very concrete example from the Baltic Sea area. Well, there are several nations around the Baltic Sea, including my native country, Estonia. And for instance, now what has been observed that there are the alien species coming to the Baltic Sea, which were not there before, namely due to the climate change. And clearly, citizen science can contribute a lot in monitoring these changes and these processes. However, what I'd also like to underline here is that citizen science is still not adequately embedded, neither in funding nor in practice, and perhaps also not enough in all policy areas. A part of the reason is still lack of awareness, also inertia, and even resistance in individual researchers and innovators, organizations, or overall research and innovation system. So I completely share the view that we still see quite a few challenges there. On the other hand, we also see a wide range of developments in citizen science and policy in EU member states. And it is clear that there are countries and regions that are more strongly supportive of citizen science than others, and the need, therefore, to try and address these disparities. And this is why, in addition to supporting the practice of citizen science across Horizon Europe's missions and clusters, and also across the European research area, we also see acute need for supporting and networking actions across Europe, but also internationally, in order really to learn from the best practices, for deepening the evidence base, to share that, also for providing innovative forms of funding for small-scale pilots. And really, as mentioned, social innovation can play an important role there, for instance, but also to open up the European research area. You know that this is not only the member states, but also other countries which are associated to Horizon Europe, which are part of European research area. Currently, we have 16 countries, and we hope to see more in the future in our future program. So clearly, this all could support the activities on a sustainable basis. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks you. So obviously the Horizon 2020 program has been a key push, I think, in the science and society, science with and for society. Around 460 million euros were spent already, and you have ambitious programs already. But you also said, for example, to have low-level opportunities for people to engage, so that it's not just the big research foundations who can maybe apply. I would still like to ask the question still, has then citizen science has reached, it's already in the mainstream of European policy language. Is it already at the national level? I first ask you. And is it actually a push for democracy as well?
I think it's a process. And I think we will permanently learn in this process what is our idea, where we want to go to, and what are the options we have. But we have critically to reflect if in this process on the way, if we are in the right way. And I personally think that in Germany we have realized, and I mentioned it just before, that citizen science is really plus for the scientific community. And but I mentioned before that not every scientist have realized this. That's one point we have, I think, to develop. And a second point is we have to achieve the strategic process. That's not only a question of money and funding.
No.
Yes, we will fund citizen science in the future. The next round is just in the evaluation and decision phase. But it's also a question in which direction we want to develop the question of citizen science.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I would like to kind of take the other perspective now. So we heard from the policy side now, and Muki, you raised the point in your introduction statement. So we see there is a process, and there is citizen science mainstreamed in science policy. You say we need to transform science as well. This is maybe not enough to have this kind of process from the science policy side. So could you explain a bit more what you mean by how can citizen science transform science, or do we need to transform science in order to be able to mainstream citizen science?
So it was already raised in the previous talks about a certain resistance that exists within science, and something that we know. So I've been working on different participatory mapping and similar activities over the year, and something that is important in this thing is that you don't empower someone without giving away something. Mm-hmm. You need to always give something away, pass the power to someone else. And that's something that scientists find extremely hard to do. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, as we said, new generation are actually getting more used to it, but we will need to push it along. And you can also tell that that's the difference among the different pillars of open science. Open access, yeah, give me the money, I'll publish things open access. Give me the institutional support and I'll do open data. But give public engagement in shaping my research, oh no. This is the point where we actually need, strong, not just strong signal, but actually push from the policy makers that will make it necessary to do it. This is a cultural change, and I don't underestimate. I'm joking about it, but it's actually an important and actually something that will frighten and will concern a lot about scientists, about their standing in society, the potential of fake news, fake science, all kind of things can happen in this process, and we need to do it carefully, but it's something that we need to do.
So if I connect this to what you said earlier, if we take the 10% from CERN, from the budget.
No, I'm not taking 10% from CERN.
I take them, okay.
I said equivalent to 10% CERN. Okay. If we as society manage to gather our money together and spend billion euros on CERN, can we as a society gather our money together and get not the equivalent to CERN? I just want equivalent of 10% CERN that will be invested in the full range of public engagement from science, from allowing the museum to do the work, from allowing citizen science, all the range of activities, and that will open up the kind of things that were raised by others.
Yeah. So maybe we take this up because there are some really interesting developments, obviously, which have been already over the past years in Austria. And maybe I pass this over to Clement, because you developed some new programs as a head of a funder organization, research funder organization, responsible for fundamental science. And so first to you, and then to Katrin to see, well, how can different actors in society take this up, and what are the different roles? So first to you, Clement.
Thank you. I think one aspect that had been just mentioned is that we have to change the incentives that we are using for science and the indicators how to measure science. This is one aspect, because when we developed the connecting minds, there were quite a resistance from the scientific community, because they said, we are basic research funding organization. Why are we going now in transdisciplinary research? And it's considered sometimes as a kind of soft science. And this is something we have to be careful, because we can't apply the kind of sign metrics in assessing this transdisciplinary research, for example. It takes time. There are other kind of outputs, and it's a capacity building as well, because university have a third mission as one of their key goals. And it shouldn't remain as a password. So we have to fill that. There must be a commitment. For me, every scientist who has a permanent position has a different kind of responsibility as well, to think much more long-term and much broader as well. But I would like to bring another indirect way of supporting citizen science in, and it has also been mentioned, is open science. Open science means open data, open access, open governance. What we do have, so it's a very, I'm a strong advocate for open science. The European Commission is a strong advocate for open science as well. It helps, on the one hand, the reproducibility of science, the democratization of science, but we have a lot of trained citizens out who evolve their own research programs outside of the traditional research institutions. So we will see in the future research that is done outside of the research institutions. This is a big opportunity in somehow as well, and it may stimulate the research community as well. But we also have to be very careful that there are clear standards, ethical standards, standards in integrity. If silent or informed or trained citizens who are outside of the institutions carry out their own scientific programs as well. Because otherwise it could lead to a kind of decrease in confidence in science as well. There's a huge opportunity behind this in respect of open science, stimulating citizen science programs, but we have to be very careful in developing the standards in assessing the quality of the research that is carried out.
Okay, what you're saying is that there may be also a danger in this, or maybe there is something to embrace this with creativity, but also with standards, which is obviously a constant thing, what we're doing in science anyway. So maybe over to Katrin. Where do you see the role of societal actors? Where do you see the role of museums, but also science shops, NGOs, as well as private individuals? And how can they actually then fulfill this promise of opening up science, but also living democracy in Europe?
Yeah, that links up to the idea of standards. It's not only the disciplinary standards of each discipline, either physics or math or whatever, but it's also standards of how to make co-creation or transdisciplinary research. That is also something you have to learn and to really have to invest. And if I look for all the programs which are running, that's projects. And people who take responsibility to lead such a project run the risk to never ever start a real career as a scientist, because science still is organized extremely disciplinary. So it's a career risk also for young researchers to do this kind of project jobs. So what Clement mentioned, the responsibility of permanent staff is really big. And organizations you just mentioned, I think they're very important to reach out. You know, we always talk about democratizing of research, but in fact, we have a slightly split society, and the split is not getting smaller, it's really getting larger. No? If you see who is really connected to science, who understands science, who is running behind the fake news. So we don't reach everybody. Science for all is not completely correct. If you would like to make science for all, you really have to invest to reach these all, if they wanted to be reached, and we also have to ask why. But the science jobs and also the civil science organizations, they are a very important link to different parts of the society, and that's a very big chance to start, and to not only to start, there are already some discussions, but also to strengthen the discussions about science, because there's this danger, also Clement mentioned, that they develop some kind of alternative methodologies, and that does not make sense. So there's really this scientific consensus, and I think that's very valuable and developed the last centuries, in fact. So it's a big chance, and but also we have to be very careful.
Yeah. Okay. And what you said, I don't know, this was raised by somebody, to create enabling environments, which then allow for this. But then we have to see what is enabling and which role do we all play, from science, from funding, from policy, from civil society organizations, and how can we work together? Speaking of which, we would like to open, obviously, the panel to the floor. Believe us, we are trying to juggle here. So it's we try to get your questions from online and try to relay this. And so there was one question actually to, let me see, earlier on, so it's already a question to Michael Meister. You stressed the role of citizen science in data collection process. You stressed the role of citizen science in the data collection process. How do you assess the contribution of citizen science in further processing science? Yeah. Sorry. So the main thing is you stress this in for data collection. Which other roles of citizen science do you see in the science process, and what is most important to you?
The most important thing is trust. Trust between the society and the research community. Mm-hmm. I think if you look in these days with COVID-19, and you spoke just about fake news, so we have a big fight. What are real data? What are real connections on which we could base decisions of the society and decisions in politics, and to found the trust for this. I think there is a big chance in citizen science to help us to do this. If the big majority of people don't innerly think that we're on the right path, then all laws, all regulation won't work. And for this process, I think we need trust between scientists on one side and the society on the other side.
So maybe can I rephrase this? Is this something like Muki said as well, that citizen science could be a tool actually in doing citizen science? We are already working towards the sustainable development goals. And by doing citizen science, we develop trust
because yeah, we develop trust in working together, and then also trust in the data. Having said this, there have been, we know in Germany, for example, there has been a very small society of the Krefelder entomologen, Krefeld entomologists, who really rocked policy, at least in Germany, with the insect dieback. And this was because they, I think policy had a big trust in those data, because it was continually assessed and without any other remit than interest in science. And so really this has led to nature protection policies or conservation policies in Germany. So I just wonder whether citizen science is also an intervention in order to live sustainable development goals. I invite the floor to just jump in. I know we are sort of, please do, if you feel you want to say something both online, so with Clement and Signe, as well as on the stage, and our audience online and in the floor. Please do jump in. I have another very interesting question here in the chat, which is from Annette Richter. And she says she's involved in citizen science now for many years. Many of us know her. And she's ambiguous regarding the current development. She is very pleased to see the next level of citizen science, as indicated by Katrin. And on the other hand, she is concerned that we overload citizen science. So her question is basically, how can we make sure that we move forward in and with citizen science in the speed that is determined by all? So by the members of science, by society and policy. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Can I just provide a brief comment?
Of course, Signe, you're welcome.
And also, well, as the discussion was really what citizen science can actually do practically for sustainable development goals. I think that it can do actually three things. First, it can raise awareness of the people, because these are the people who are engaged in citizen science. And it can also promote behavioral change towards the SDGs, namely as it involves citizens in activities that also have some educational outcomes. And especially if we are speaking about the school children and young people who are also engaged in citizen science. Then, as it was already discussed previously, it can support SDGs by providing data, by monitoring, but also of citizens' insights. And I think this is something, a contribution to the scientists, to the researchers, as it was also mentioned that sometimes there is some resistance by researchers. They don't see the need. Why should I involve the citizens? I have knowledge enough in this area. What is the value added? And thirdly, it can also already work towards the goals themselves, namely implementing actions that, for instance, promote gender equality, which also develop social and technological innovations. And now to the question of whether we overload the citizen science, how we approach now in Horizon Europe framework program is that really we try to embed citizen science in different topics where we see that really citizen science can provide added value. So that certainly there is the room for the researchers, but also of citizen sciences as citizens as researchers to provide their input.
Okay. Yes, Muki. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's a really important point that Annette is raising, and it's known for the community that is involved, the community of practice of citizen science, that these expectations are pulling in different directions. And no single project can do all the things that you expect from it, produce top quality science plus engage huge amount of people that will be co-created from the start and will reach out to marginalized community, etc., etc., etc. We will need to design different projects that are focusing on one thing without forgetting about the other aspects. So it's this balancing act that it's complex because it's a socio-technical scientific type of activity. But the knowledge about it, and actually here another importance of the Science of Citizen Science book is coming in, all this knowledge and the book that you've edited, Susanne, too, are coming out and providing the background and the guidance to people on how to do it better. And we need to communicate it also to all the funders and everyone else that is involved in citizen science.
Okay, thank you very much. We have got one last question from the floor, and then I think we have to it's almost up, so we will have some statements afterwards. So from Marina Manzoni, she says, okay, if we want to achieve impact, do we actually also work to measure this impact? Are there already efforts to develop indicators for this? So this is the question to you.
I think we can't directly measure it like a quantity, but I think we learn from the process, and we saw that scientists recognize the society and that the society in greater circles goes into the citizen science itself. So I personally see an advantage. And then we speak here in this conference not only about citizen science, but as well as about the SDGs. And to get the whole society behind the SDGs is as well, in my eyes, a big effort of this process.
That's great.
And can I reverse role?
Yeah.
And become interview, because I'm now going to direct this question at you two, because you've been doing the monitor on citizen science. So what will be your answer?
I'm sorry. Susanne, first to you.
Sorry.
You've been involved in the effort of creating the citizen science monitor at European level. So what will be your answer to this question?
Yeah, okay. So I think what we have to move towards is, if we want to see impact, so as Signe already said, and a few of you, is we already do know that some of the data are really, really important and are also the baseline for some of our European policies. We need to meet, as outlined also by the Commission documents, we need to have a better matchmaking so that we can actually, so that they can flow into policy more easily. So because there are difficulties from both sides. So I think there we have to see so that it can even be more, have more impact. And I think there are, as we already said, there are some tensions. Some people don't want to open up. Do we really want those kind of data? Do we really want sort of, other things? So I think we are working towards this, but it's really great to hear that this is already flowing. For example, with the plastics, with the soil sampling. So, for example, soils is also something which is otherwise not really recognized in science so much. So I think, but if we talk about impact, and what you all said is that there is an empowerment, that we have a move towards democracy. There we should see, well, where has this happened? I think you have all given some examples towards this, but maybe we could then see so that this comes, what you also said, has it actually built trust? So maybe this would be good to monitor or not, to assess, has citizen science led to greater trust in science? Has it also led to greater empowerment? And at the moment, we are involved in Germany in looking back at our green paper to see what have we done in the last 4 years. This is across actually Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. But obviously, we're talking about Europe. So it would be great if, for example, the EU Citizen Science Platform could do this, or there could be another cost action to follow on to then see, well, what is the different impact? So, yeah. This seems like almost a statement for myself, although I'm just the moderator. But maybe let's open the floor to you. So you have we have now last 6 minutes to have some closing statements, and maybe we go just the round from here. So I give the first word to Michael Meister. Please just inspire the audience. What are we to expect for the next 2 days, and until 2030? What would you want the citizen science community to achieve? yours here.
Yeah, and first I will state that we will, as ministry, continue to support this process because we believe it's a very important process. I hope that we get on a lot of projects which are set up, for example, in the environmental context, we get really a new level of data, and this new level of data helps us to come to a new level of understanding of these processes. So, and that is not only a research question, it's an understanding question for all citizens, and we hope that this process is going ahead. And then on an international level, I really hope that it's not a conference in Germany. It's really an international dimension, a European dimension, and that we get in this cross-border work in citizen science.
Okay, we pass over to Muki.
So the final comment for me would be that through Horizon 2020, we've seen a really rapid increase in investment in citizen science, and Europe became a beacon for citizen science globally due to this investment and the creation of the community. And both the SDG and the opportunities of Horizon Europe are going to continue to do this direction, and it will be fantastic if we'll continue to see this growth coming forward.
Thank you very much for always inspiring us, Muki. Over to you, Katrin.
I would like to focus also on the citizens, because it's such a big treasure that there's so many people who really would like to contribute to science, to do something useful, to learn something that known to new people and ideas, and not to waste this treasure with data which are not used or not standardized and can't be kept for monitoring or whatever. I think we made some suggestions, and also to keep better the ideas and intentions of the public, as it's not so easy. You cannot just run around and ask, oh, what's your next research project? It does not work. You really have to invest in all this communication and capacity building processes.
Thank you very much. Then passing over to Clement.
We are talking about democratization of science, but it's still in citizen science, it's quite a small community who is really engaged in citizen science programs. So we should do a lot in enlarging, in broadening the kind of community that would like to be involved in citizen science projects, minorities, for example, as well. Because everyone is a scientist or is born as a young scientist. And so they are all curious. And I think this is something where we really can stimulate much more about this. And about the impact, there are very fascinating examples where citizen science projects really advanced science. And the citizens who have been involved were very proud about this. So it's this in both ways, this kind of feedback that really is very stimulating.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. And then last to Signe, please.
Yes, many thanks. In my concluding remarks, I'd also like to use some of the comments from the chat box and actually conclude by saying that we in the Commission, we really see citizen science as part of a bigger process. That is part of societal engagement more broadly throughout research, innovation policies and systems. So it is really part of this democratization of science, bringing the European Green Deal, but not only, but also the other major objectives that we have closer to citizens. So what I'd really like to do is to make citizens part of the conceptual phase, experimental design, data discussion, the implementation of research and innovation policies, but also monitoring of the success. So really, we need to work across disciplines, sectors, reach out to communities. And what role can the European Commission play here is that we promote recognition, rewards, for societal engagement. And we do that by funding research projects, but also in research careers and assessing the performance of the organizations. So this will all be part of a bigger picture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is quite a steer for the next 2 days. I hope we can fill this with the different sessions and debate this and then go forward in order to reach our 2030 goals. Thank you very much from me. It has been really exciting. It was fantastic. I'm looking forward to chatting with you also in the breaks. And I guess everybody else is looking forward to this as well. I pass over to the last word to Susanne.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks to the panelists. Thank you, Aletta, as well. And thank you, everybody who contributed in the chat. There are really interesting questions, so I invite the panelists who could not have a look at the chat questions. We could not ask them all here on the panel, but I think they will come up again, and I encourage you to just carry on until you get some answers throughout the conference. Thank you very much. With this, we are closing this panel session, and I have some more information for the guests here on site. So we move to a coffee and networking session right now. Again, just please move around respectfully with your masks on, but then also, of course, try to network and connect with each other. There is a great opportunity in the hop-in session. I think it's number E1, if I can read it okay here in the spotlight, where you can meet the expert, which is Clement Tockner in this case. So you can meet him in the session where you can just join straight away, or otherwise there is also for everybody in the hop-in tool, there is the networking session where you are invited to join, and we will continue with the program here with the plenary talk by Muki Haklai, who is asking the question, what is citizen science anyway? Thank you very much and see you soon.